Hey everyone, so if you're in Bristol or South Bristol, you've probably been hearing some chatter about a pretty big change on the horizon for our local schools. Today, we're going to break down exactly what this new plan is, why it's even being discussed, and what it could mean for all of us. So let's get right to it. The big question is why? Why are we talking about restructuring our schools right now? We're going to walk through some of the challenges with the system we have today, and then dive into the new approach that's being proposed. First up, let's get on the same page about how things work right now. Our schools are part of what's called an alternate organizational structure, or AOS for short. You can think of it as a way for different school districts to team up and share administrative costs. It was created as an option instead of full-on consolidation. But here's a key detail. The state isn't actually creating any new ones of these anymore. Okay, so what's the proposed new model? It's called an Education Service Center, or ESC. Now, the two big words to focus on here are member-owned and collaboration. The whole idea is to let districts share resources to be more efficient. But, and this is so important, each town keeps its own local school board and its local control.
Right, so why the big push for change? This isn't just happening out of the blue. Let's dig into the specific challenges with the current AOS setup that have really brought us to this point.
A huge piece of the puzzle here is about governance. It's about who gets a say. Take a look at this chart. It shows the voting power on the current AOS board. You can see Bristol has about 34% and South Bristol has almost 14%. Now do the math. If you add them together, you get 47.8%. That's a minority voice. It means they can't guarantee a majority vote to really advocate for their specific needs.
And then you have to follow the money. This is where things get really stark. These are the projected cost increases under the current model. For South Bristol, look at that jump, a staggering 178% increase. For Bristol, it's a 35% hike. These are massive financial hits, and you can see they aren't being spread out very evenly. So when you put it all together, the need for change really boils down to these three things. The different towns in the AOS just don't share the same vision anymore. Because of that weighted voting, Bristol and South Bristol can't effectively fight for their own students and staff. And as we just saw, those soaring costs are starting to pull vital resources away from the classrooms where they're needed most.
Okay, we've laid out the problems pretty clearly, so now let's pivot and talk about the proposed solution. What exactly is this Education Service Center, and how would it actually work for our towns?
You can think of an ESC as the administrative engine that powers the schools. It would handle all that essential behind-the-scenes stuff that the AOS does now. We're talking about the superintendent, all the business office services like payroll and HR, the special services director, and managing things like transportation and food service. It's the whole shebang. Now, this slide is probably one of the most important ones because it addresses what a lot of people are worried about. What won't change? Well, the towns absolutely still own their school buildings and property. There's no change to the fantastic teaching and support staff in the schools. Each town keeps its own local school board, and neither town takes on the other's debt. In short, local control stays local. Period.
So this specific proposal for Bristol and South Bristol has been given a name, the Johns Bay Coastal Alliance. It's really a vision built around a focused two-town partnership. And here's their mission statement. The focus, you can see, is crystal clear, fostering excellence in education. But pay close attention to that last part, guided by the values of our students, educators, and communities. It puts the local why right at the heart of everything.
All right, this slide is where the rubber really meets the road. It shows the critical difference in governance. Right now, in the AOS, you've got those weighted votes, leaving our towns with a minority say. The new plan? A board with an equal number of reps from each town, where every single person gets one vote. It's a direct shift from a minority voice to an equal seat at the table.
So, what does this all actually mean for everyday life? Let's break down the tangible benefits for the students, for the staff, and, of course, for all of us as taxpayers.
Let's start with a really compelling number. The state of Maine actually gives financial incentives to schools that form these more efficient ESCs. For the Johns Bay Coastal Alliance, this translates to about $120,000. That's new money coming from the state to support our local schools every single year. And here's how an administrative change like this actually makes a difference for the kids. With administrators focused on just two schools, they can be more present, more visible, and more supportive. It just opens the door for better collaboration between teachers on curriculum, a more accessible special ed director for students, and way more opportunities for shared programs, from sports to enrichment.
For the community, this is really all about running a smarter, more efficient operation. This model is specifically designed to put the brakes on those wild cost increases we saw earlier. When you share positions, you share the costs, and it creates a real pathway for future savings in things like technology, building maintenance, and transportation.
Okay, so this sounds like a pretty well thought out plan, but how does it become a reality? Well, this isn't just a vague idea. There's a very clear step-by-step process. Let's take a look at the road ahead. Here is the official timeline. The application is due to the Department of Education by the end of October. We should hear back in early November. If it gets the green light, both school boards will vote to sign the final agreement by the end of November. Then, budget work happens in early 2026, with the goal of having the new alliance up and running on July 1st, 2026.
Whew, that's a lot of information, I know. This is obviously a huge decision for both of our communities, and an informed public is absolutely essential. So you might still have questions, or maybe you want to dig even deeper into the details. And the good news is the committee wants to hear from you. You can find all the presentations, FAQs, and a ton of other info on both the Bristol Consolidated and the South Bristol School websites. There's even a form where you can submit your questions directly. This is a really crucial moment for our towns, and being informed is the best first step. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.